So here's my argument, and I'm going to introduce to you a new concept, or at least a good name for one: the suffer class. The Democrats need people to suffer to justify their existence, their power, and their actions. As long as they can identify a class that is suffering, any action they take to alleviate the suffering, allegedly, is justified, and they stand on absolute moral authority when they do so. Now, until the Democrats settle in on a new leader, the leader of the party is Bernie Sanders. As I've said before, when there's a void in leadership, he steps in and drags the party to the far left. Now, according to Democrats, the solution to poverty is, get this, to import more poor people, then pass the financial burden onto the American taxpayer. Here's Bernie on CNN.
So when I'm running around the country with Alexandria and other people, what we are trying to do is demand that working class people begin to stand up and fight for their rights. There is no reason we should be the only major country not to have health care, not to have paid family and medical leave, et cetera, et cetera. Why we have the highest rate of childhood poverty, almost any major country. 22% of our seniors living on $15,000 a year. Anybody here think that makes sense? No. All right, it doesn't.
Well, what are the nations importing poor people to the level we are? The solution to his alleged rising poverty rates in the United States is not importing more people. It's deporting the poor people in the country illegally. If you have poor people, you cannot cure that poverty by adding more poor people, unless your goal is to overwhelm the system. The other side of that is Bernie always talks up the idea of raising the minimum wage. You can't cure cancer by making the tumor bigger.
I mean, it's not surprising. You believe you're right, and Senator Schumer's wrong here.
You need an agenda. Did you hear? United around what? Are we united around guaranteeing health care to all people? I am proud, by the way, that the Democrats supported an amendment that I offered to raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour. That's a start. Are we united in tackling a corrupt campaign finance system? Now, you tell me, you're an observer of these things. How do you deal with politics in America without understanding that billionaires play an enormously destructive role in both political?
Right, it's the rich guy's fault that the poor guy is poor. An American citizen or family struggling is not helped by adding to the number of people competing with them for a job with a basic income. And I don't ever want to sound like a condescending jerk when I say that. But if you have a job, a basic skills job with a basic income, you are going to be under constant stress from competition from around the world if the border's left open. Now, here are some statistics from last year. Headline USA Today, September 10th, 2024. Poverty in the U.S. increased last year, even as incomes rose, Census Bureau says. The number of Americans living in poverty has gone up even as incomes rose last year, the U.S. Census Bureau announced Tuesday. Measuring poverty can be tricky, but the main number social scientists have for years looked at to capture the true number of people struggling to make their basic needs ticked up to 12.9% in 2023 compared to 12.4% in 2022, according to the Census Bureau. More Americans are struggling to afford necessities like rent, childcare, medical expenses that cause the supplemental poverty measure used by social scientists to rise, even as the number of Americans living below the more standard official poverty line measure fell for the first time since 2019 due to rising incomes. Okay, right, again, people at the lower end of the income scale were facing more pressure from the open border and therefore a smaller slice of the government assistance pie. And we have examples of this all over the place. Look at this graphic from Germany, right? Their poverty rate started to rise when Angela Merkel invited 1 million Middle Easterners into the country. People with no education, who didn't speak the language, who had no demonstrable skills. And you can see it right there. The immigrants tend to be poor in Germany. If you have poor people that are part of your citizenry, you don't alleviate their poverty by bringing in more people. I mean, I know misery loves company, but right now we have Bernie Sanders, who is the voice of the Democrat Party. And all he wants to do is bring in more people and pass the financial burden on to taxpayers. That doesn't lift people out of poverty. When people they'll get ahead if they aren't under constant competition from around the world. But the Democrats need the suffer class. And that's my argument.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.